to Sudan, where fighting has been reported around the capital Khartoum just hours before a ceasefire is set to go into effect. The army and the paramilitary rapid support forces signed a humanitarian truce that's due to begin this evening. The two sides have been locked in a power struggle since mid-April. The United States and Saudi Arabia brokered the 7-day pause during talks in Jeddah. More than 1 million people have been forced from their homes and at least 850 killed. Well, Arise East Africa correspondent Mark Bichachi has been monitoring developments in the region, and he joins me now live from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Good to see you, Mark. So a ceasefire starting again in Sudan, but with so many broken ceasefires, is there faith that this will be any different?
Well, the only difference, Charles, that we can see is the fact that there is actually a monitoring system that both sides have agreed to, ensuring that the ceasefire actually takes effect. And let's remember, this is almost 4 weeks since the to a monitoring mechanism gives an opportunity for the international community not only to observe what is going on, but to actually support the ceasefire that is going on. So this is a major development, not in terms of the conflict, but in terms of delivering humanitarian aid and much needed food and aid into the regions, especially in Khartoum and its twin city.
Well, I was going to ask you to kind of bring us up to date with what you're hearing about the situation in Khartoum at the moment. I mean, we had reports of fighting going on there. How intense is it? Does it look like things will quieten down in the hours coming up?
Well, the most recent reports is in the city of Durman. We've had the army engaging with the RSF vehicles, shooting them down and having fights in that regard. So in the last 24 hours, I can report that there has been continued fighting between the two sides. But what has been remarkably different is the fighting not just in buildings, but in the military vehicles, signifying a change in the type of combat, meaning that the RSF, which has been previously accused of hiding in civilian buildings, has actually stepped out and is having into military vehicle versus military kind of confrontations. So is it a better situation? No. Is it a sign of hope that things are getting better in Sudan and especially in Khartoum, in the north of Khartoum and in Durman? Yes, the things have not been as bad as they have been before, but the conflict continues to happen.
And of course, the fallout from this conflict in Sudan has left neighboring South Sudan facing a humanitarian crisis. We understand that almost 70,000 people have crossed into the country over the past month. And South Sudan, of course, one of the poorest countries in the world, now faced with the challenge of looking after these new arrivals.
Well, the problem is twofold. First and foremost is South Sudan has not been the most peaceful region to begin with. Forget about the level of poverty. South Sudan has faced conflict and violence between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. Secondly, is we have got many hundreds of thousands of South Sudanese refugees who are taken refuge in the Sudan, and they have got to come back. On top of that is you've got Sudanese who are previously well settled in Sudan, who are walking into South Sudan, walking into Chad, walking into Egypt, and walking into Ethiopia. All countries which have had civil conflict in the last 10 years. So this is not just an issue about conflict in the Sudan, it is also an issue about how we're going to take care of the humanitarian needs of the countries that are receiving the refugees, most of which to speak the burden which South Sudan, poor as it is, war-torn as it is, now has to take care of, not only of South Sudanese returning, but also Sudanese running away from the conflict.
Mark, thank you very much indeed for that rather sobering analysis on the fallout from the conflict in Sudan. Mark Bichachi is Arise East Africa correspondent. He was talking to me there from Nairobi.